So I've just watched Adrien Broner versus Adrian Granados. I watched the Showtime version of the fight, and Al Bernstein makes quite a revealing comment halfway through this matchup, which is that at 140 pounds or less on the lead up to this fight, Broner's 29-0. Yet at over 140 pounds, Broner is 2-2. So in other words, Adrien Broner completely undefeated at light welterweight or below, and only a 50% win record above light welterweight. Clearly a revealing stat. Clearly an obvious indication that perhaps Adrien Broner should at least be considering making 140 pounds. And this was a very, very revealing fight for me. A very revealing fight. And it's a fight that is going to be key as a piece of form in terms of whether or not to pick Adrien Broner in big fights going forward. Let's start by saying Adrian Granados is probably best known as a 140 pounder. For this fight, Adrien Broner brought him up to 147 pounds. Typically, that would mean that Adrien Broner was the bigger man, and Adrien Broner would enjoy a size advantage over his opponent. In this case, that didn't happen. In this case, Broner brought a 140 pounder up to 147 pounds and actually allowed that person to enjoy a size advantage over Adrien Broner. Granados was the bigger man, the rangier man, the taller man, and he used that height advantage to real effect throughout great periods of this fight. Granados also had a volume advantage over Adrien Broner. He certainly had a higher output, and Granados showed far superior movement to Adrien Broner. Granados was moving around the ring with a huge amount of lateral movement. He was creating distance, creating space, and really using his range, and to great effect for periods of this fight. And for me, this is very, very revealing. If a guy like Adrien Granados, who, let's face it, is sub-elite and isn't a 147 pounder, can enjoy those advantages over Adrien Broner, for me, the writing really is on the wall for Adrien Broner in terms of the continuation of his career at the elite level, especially at these higher weight classes. To reiterate, Granados had a volume advantage, a size advantage, and a movement advantage. And Granados was hitting Adrien Broner with punches that I didn't expect Adrien Granados to hit Adrien Broner with. How many times in this fight did Granados lead with a straight right cross and catch Adrien Broner pretty much clean? Pretty much clean with a straight right cross. How many times in this fight did you see Granados land something to Broner to make Broner put his guard up, and then Granados drop to the body and land a multi-punch combination to Adrien Broner's body? There were times in this fight where I think I can say Adrien Granados was actually outboxing Adrien Broner. On the lead up to this fight, I expected Adrien Granados would try and mimic some of the success that Sean Porter had against Broner and that Marcus Maidana had against Broner. I expected to see Granados getting the fight into the pocket, pouring on the volume, adding the pressure to Adrien Broner, trying to push Broner back and trying to throw multiple shots inside the pocket. And he did enjoy some success there, but that was, for my money, to be expected. What I didn't expect him to do is to be catching Adrien Broner with lead power punches from the outside. I didn't expect him to be landing multiple combinations of clean punches to Adrien Broner's body. I didn't expect there to be vast periods of the fight where Granados was outmaneuvering and outmoving Adrien Broner. And I don't know if Adrien Broner, he's had a lot of fights, he's blown up a lot outside the ring, he's been incarcerated, he hasn't trained hard for periods of his career. He clearly hasn't put in the effort to make weight on multiple occasions. I don't know if it's starting to catch up with Adrien Broner because, Broner's a tough man. He's clearly got a good chin. But the punches that Adrien Broner was taking in there tonight from an operator like Granados, I wouldn't expect the Adrien Broner of old to have taken. And Broner at this point has to be considered a vulnerable fighter. We've always known that a big, strong, tough 147 pounder who can put the pressure on him and who can, bring volume and really batter and bully him around the ring. We've always known that kind of guy could beat Adrien Broner. We've seen Maidana do it. We've seen Sean Porter do it. Someone else could bring that kind of style and beat Adrien Broner. But based on what I saw from Adrien Granados, a tall guy who boxes from range and who's prepared to lead with power shots and try and move and use distance is also going to have real effect against Adrien Broner. The Paulie Malignaggi, who took Adrien Broner so close when they fought, would probably beat Adrien Broner at this stage of his career. A guy like Chris Algieri, when he fought Ruslan Provodnikov, a performance like that would probably beat Adrien Broner at this point of his career. I'd pick a guy like Amir Khan, who uses distance and throws flashy 1-2s from long range to beat Adrien Broner at this stage of his career. Broner's a small guy. People say he needs to make 140. I'm not sure. I'm thinking he might need to make 135. He's a small guy. He's got an excellent jab. He's got good skills on the inside. But he's vulnerable to getting caught. And I don't want to say he's slow-footed because he pivots well and he's got good technical footwork. But the guy's fairly static. He's fairly stationary. And when you're so much smaller in terms of height and frame and range, to be so stationary is massively to your detriment. Because essentially it means tall guys can just not only use their distance against you, but also outmove you, which makes it much harder to hit them and makes you a sitting duck for their long-range efforts. So I was really surprised at the variety of success Granados was having. He was having success inside the pocket. He was having success while pouring on the presser. He was having success boxing long and using range. He was having success leading with power punches from the outside. Now I'm going to put it out there. I think Granados won this fight. It was a good fight. It was a good fight. Competitive. The styles gel quite well. And it was one of those fights where there was always going to be controversy because, as Paulie Malignaggi said in commentary, it kind of depends what you like. Broner seemed to be having about 50% of the volume of Adrien Granados. Perhaps Broner was landing the crisper punches. Perhaps Broner was maybe the more heavy-handed of the two guys, although that's something you could debate. But having said all of that, I just feel Granados did enough. I think Granados won the first 2 rounds of the fight very, very clearly. I thought in many ways those were some of the clearest rounds you could score the fight. I thought at that point Adrien Broner started getting his jab established in the 3rd round and started having more success inside the pocket where he was doing some neat little pivots and getting some body shots off, getting some uppercuts off. But I just about felt Granados did enough to nick this one. And the judge who scored it 7 rounds to 3 in favour of Adrien Broner, that is a ludicrous scorecard. I think one of the judges had it 7-3 Broner, which I just can't accept. One of them had it 6-4 Broner, which I find very hard to accept, but I guess you could make a case. And then one of them had it 7-3 Granados, which, to be honest, it's probably generous to Granados. I probably saw it more as a 5-5 or a 6-4 in favour of Granados. But, nevertheless, I think there's certainly a stronger argument that Granados won the fight 7-3 than there was Broner winning the fight 6-4, in my personal opinion. Regardless of who you thought won this fight, for me, and I've always been a Broner fan, I've made videos on this channel supporting Broner as a boxer a lot in the past, but the writing just is on the wall for him. He's one of these guys who needs to be operating at a lower weight class, but the fact he has persistently and continued to ignore that, even when it's blatantly obvious for all around him that needs to be the case, to me suggests that as he's getting older, and as he's still enjoying his celebrity lifestyle, it's just going to be impossible for him to get down to those lower weight classes again. And I think at this stage, Broner is not only vulnerable to the strong pressure fighter type, he's also going to be very, very vulnerable to the boxer mover type. And putting it simply, I know, at £147, who do I see Adrien Broner beating in the top 10? It's very few and far between. I make most of the top 10 favourites against Adrien Broner at this stage of his career. I really, really do. Adrian Granados, I think, can feel hard done by here. Broner did have some success. I'm not going to say this was a one-sided fight. Broner's jab was effective. It bust Granados up. There were rounds when Broner probably was the ringmaster and the ring general on the inside. And, Broner is a technician. We know he does things very well. We know he's got hand speed. He puts punches together very snappily. He shortens up his punches very nicely. He's a bit of a stylist in there. And don't get me wrong, Broner was doing things well. But the advantages Granados was enjoying, for me, were winning him the fight. You know, rounds that were close, Granados' movement, Granados' volume. You know, for me, I just edged to Adrian Granados. And I was surprised how comfortable Granados looked in there. You know, the way he was moving around the ring, the way he was showboating. He looked very much at times like he was the sort of the boxing stylist and the boxing superstar in there. You know, you have to look Adrian Granados up and realise after the fight that this is no Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter, but the fact that Adrien Broner is struggling with this kind of fighter, you know, just for me tells me either Adrien Broner is a sub-elite fighter above 140 pounds, which is very, very plausible, or the Adrien Broner of old, you know, has been and gone. We're now looking at a fighter in the autumn of his career. I know Broner's not an old guy, but as I say, he's had a lot of fights. He's not lived a lifestyle, and you know, for me, he was getting hit with punches in there that if that was Keith Thurman, if that was Kell Brook, if that was Errol Spence, he'd probably be getting knocked out. As an Adrien Broner fan, I think this fight was a not a good sign. Not a good sign. A very good fight to watch, enjoyable, controversial. I want to know your thoughts on who deserved to win this fight. Are you Team Adrien Granados? Are you Team Adrien Broner? How did you score it? Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new to the channel or haven't done so before, please take the time to subscribe. Many thanks indeed for watching.